4 o'clock hour, we are joined by Brandon Helwig, UCFsports.com. Baylor and UCF in what will be the Knights' Big 12 home opener after playing in Manhattan in a really competitive game against Kansas State. Brandon joins Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak. Brandon, thanks for your time. We know about the excitement as they led up to the official date earlier this summer, the first Big 12 game last week. What will it be like in Orlando around the campus this week with their first home game?
It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is a day that, needless to say, that every UCF fan has circled on their calendar since the schedule came out earlier this year. It's been, I guess, more than 2 years since the official invitation went out, and everyone was just waiting for, 2023 and the first Big 12 season. And, everyone is hyped up. I mean, it was a big rush, last week going on the road for the first time at Kansas State. And I know a bunch of Knight fans made that trip. And just for me personally, someone who's been covering the team for a long time, it just, you're at the game and, you're in the atmosphere and you're kind of taking it all in. But it almost didn't seem real in terms of just, this is a conference game now. This isn't just like a non-conference game that you're playing. You visit one of these teams every few years or so. And it may take a little while, at least for me and maybe the fans, to kind of recognize, this is conference play now. But yeah, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think the fact that it's a 3:30 game, I think maybe fans would have preferred maybe a night game, but 3:30 isn't too bad when it could have been a noon game. So obviously the game's been sold out for a long time, and I know this secondary market is kind of lighting up in terms of getting tickets and what have you. But it's going to be a really electric atmosphere this Saturday inside the Bounce House.
John Rhys Plumlee probably not going to play. We don't know about Blake Shapen. He's day-to-day. So would you say it's a reasonably good chance that at least from the UCF side, you're going to see a backup quarterback again?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a broken record. It seems like we were talking about the same thing last week when UCF went to K-State. We were wondering if, K-State quarterback Will Howard was going to play. And, I don't know what UCF coaching staff really thought. I think maybe they thought there was a good chance their freshman was going to play. Ends up Will Howard played and had an amazing game for K-State. But yeah, John Rhys Plumlee, the very end of that Boise State game a couple weeks ago, as UCF was driving down the field for what ended up being the walk-off game-winning field goal, he took a hit. And, I was at the game, and I'm watching the replay because that was a potential targeting call. And so I'm watching the board, and I'm seeing, did the defender hit him with his, in the head or the shoulder or whatever? I didn't even realize his leg kind of dragged and kind of went in a funny way, which it shouldn't have done. And he hurt his knee. And I guess the positive news is anytime you see there's a knee injury, you always fear the worst. Is it an ACL tear? Is it a season-ending type thing? I guess the good news, when they came back and got the MRI done, it is not a season-ending injury, but it'll take a few weeks. And maybe it's a similar injury than what Blake Shapen's going through. But no, he's not going to be back this week. They haven't really said. They just said sooner than later. Maybe for UCF, they go on the road to Kansas after this Baylor game. Then there's a bye week. Then they're at Oklahoma. Potentially, that might be a window late October, early November. But no, John Rhys Plumlee will not play. But yeah, it'll be Timmy McClain. He's been the backup. He obviously started these past 2 weeks in place of John Rhys Plumlee. He has some experience. He was a transfer from South Florida. He started for the Bulls in the 2021 season, transferred to UCF last year when he did not win the starting job at USF, I believe, because the Baylor transfer was named the starting quarterback there. And so he, it was beyond the window, so he wasn't eligible to play last year. Ran the scout team for UCF, so he's been the starting quarterback, and he's done some good things. I know this past weekend at Kansas State was obviously his first real test in a real atmosphere against a real defense. He made some plays, but then there's some plays that just kind of scratch your head that, he's running backwards and, he's kind of taking sacks when he should throw it away. There was one time he tried to throw it away, but just threw it right to a Kansas State defender, and that was an interception. So, I think he learned a lot this past week, and he'll be better for it come this week against Baylor.
Brandon, this was a 24-21 game. UCF leading early third quarter, and then eventually K-State just, long methodical drives. And that run game, DJ Giddens with a huge day. Is that a concern, the run defense, or is that more of like, hey, Kansas State and what they do and DJ Giddens and his talent? How did you sort of see that, and what were your main, thoughts coming out of that matchup?
Yeah, I think that is a major concern for UCF, going into Big 12 play. They went on the road to Boise State, 2 weeks ago, and, their running backs were able to run a little bit on them. I think their starting running back ran for over 100 yards, and, they were able to get off the field, and they were able to keep the score in check. But Kansas State just methodically was able to march down the field. I can't remember how many times they punted, maybe just one time. Yeah, I think Kansas State just punted once, just could not get off the field, could not stop DJ Giddens. Yeah, he ran for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. And, I think he was the Doak Walker, national running back of the week. And so it was just one of those things. I think the defensive ends weren't setting the edge. Some of the linebacker play was questionable. Just UCF was not ready for that kind of attack. And that's a big question mark going into it because, you play the early season schedule, they really weren't tested early. You start with Kent State, probably one of the worst teams in FBS. You play Boise State, which, I know they were preseason favorites to win the Mountain West, but maybe they're not Big 12 caliber. Then you play Villanova, an FCS team. So you kind of weren't really sure, how good this offense or defense was. So that was a big wake up call in that game. And that's going to be a big question mark, I think, for UCF going forward, just how good or bad this run defense really is.
What would this mean, just get this first one? Baylor obviously right now seems to be kind of a mess, and who knows, although they want to run the football, they haven't really been able to do that, except I don't even know if they did it really well against Long Island. But getting the first conference win and just moving forward and then just letting the rest of the schedule take its place?
Yeah, it's, for UCF in this first season, in the Big 12, I mean, you want to be competitive in the league. You want to make a bowl game. And if you kind of look at the schedule and how it lays out, you've got some tough games coming up. I mean, after Baylor, you got to go on the road to Kansas. They're very talented. They have a talented quarterback. You got to go on the road to Oklahoma. So if UCF wants to be competitive, in the Big 12, this is, I hate using the word must win, but this is a game that they really need to win. It's at home. Baylor's been struggling a little bit, but as I mean, that record's, deceiving. I know that Texas State game is something that I think everyone is scratching their heads about, but, this is a team that, was down to the wire with Utah, a few weeks back and could have won that game if things go a little bit differently. So, you look at the Vegas lines, I think UCF is favored by 9, and after, UCF's going to have to prove that they can be, and they were competitive with Kansas State. I mean, if the defense can get off the field, there was an opportunity in that third quarter, UCF took the lead and it looked like they were going to get the ball back. And then, maybe they could have potentially put up another score on the board and had a 2-possession lead, but they were the penalties just really, hurt UCF defense. There was a late hit on the quarterback. There was an offside. There was multiple times where it looked like UCF defense could have got off the field, but could not. But this is a big game. I mean, this is a really big game just for UCF. You want to get that first Big 12 win. I think last week, or I think Houston might have played TCU 2 weeks ago, but none of the newcomers have won a Big 12 game yet. And you would love to be able to say you won your very first Big 12 home game.
Brandon, what do you think? What do you think about the 2013 team coming back?
That's going to be a lot of fun. They've got a big reunion. It kind of worked out perfectly if you think about it. It's been 10 years since that memorable 2013 season, and there was a lot of moments that year. Just wins that just last minute victories that you didn't think they were going to pull out, and just everything kind of bounced in UCF's favor, then going all the way to the Fiesta Bowl. And obviously you guys know more than anyone about the hype that Baylor had going into it. I mean, no one gave UCF a chance in that game. I think it was one of those ESPN commentators had all of his confidence points that Baylor was going to blow UCF out of the water. And, it kind of was the other way around. And there was only I think it ended up being a 10-point UCF win, 52-42. It felt like it was a little bit more than that. But, yeah, they've got a lot of guys coming. I think there's a reunion dinner on Friday night. I know maybe one or two of those guys maybe is going to join you guys later in the week. But, yeah, they're going to be honored during the game. Yeah, it'll just be a fun weekend. Obviously first Big 12 game ever at UCF and honoring that 2013 of the American Championship and Fiesta Bowl winner team.
Brandon, thank you very much. Good to have you anytime, and we appreciate your time. It's been fun to have you since back in the fall of, 21, when all the news came down about the 4 incoming schools, including UCF. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the week.
All right, guys. Thank you. Take
Brandon
care.
Helwig with us, again, with UCFsports.com on the game Saturday, 2:30, UCF and also Baylor.